Hey, this is Srivatsaa, and I just recorded this episode of the Hustle and Flowchart podcast with Joe and Matt, and these guys are beyond insightful. They literally found a way to pull out the stories and the ideas that I almost never talk about, but made it more relevant for you, your life, and your business. We talk about business growth, we talk about scaling a business, how to get focused, and most importantly, how to solve any problem in your life.
This is an intro. Intro.
Hustle and Flowchart with your boy, my boy, Matt Wolf and Joe Fier.
Hey,
I want to tell you about something.
What's that?
Dude, Ahrefs, the tool we've talked about forever because we use it a lot in our business. They have a free version now.
No way.
They do.
No way.
Yes, it's called Ahrefs Webmaster Tools.
Wait.
It's legit.
Okay, hold on. Let me...
Nice fake typing.
I went to ahrefs.com/AWT. I went to ahrefs.com, and you should too. ahrefs.com/AWT. There's an A before all that.
ahrefs.com/AWT.
Yeah, so we said it about 100 times, so now it's subconsciously in your brain. So I went there, and this is blowing my mind, Matt. This is crazy. I'm looking at the page right now. It monitors the SEO health. I mean, tell me more, Matt. Why is this important? Why should I?
Well, it monitors the SEO health. It monitors all the backlinks and all the domain and page level SEO metrics and all of your search traffic and keywords and what keywords you're showing up for. And it does it for free. And we use the paid Ahrefs, but this is awesome.
I was just kidding over here. I was just having fun.
No.
I wasn't really real typing, right?
You
knew that?
No.
I don't really type.
Yeah. I can also see you.
Yeah, dang it. Okay, in all reality, this is a freaking cool tool. We were nerding out about it when we heard that Ahrefs was coming back for a sponsorship because it's a free tool, no credit card required. And yeah, you get a lot of key things that the bigger Ahrefs tool has in it, that this one basically has all the key things that every person with a website should have this. So that is you listening.
So yes, improve your website's SEO performance for free. Just go to ahrefs.com/AWT.
All right, Sharran, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. I mean, we've been very interested in to hear from your words, your story, and just all these crazy, I feel like you've lived many generations just through the wildness that you've taken yourself through life so far. And it's going to be fascinating to unpack that a little bit here. So thanks for spending some time with us.
Well, and likewise, I think a lot of people don't realize how much time this stuff takes on your end. Finding the right folks to be on your show to share with your community, getting the time right, getting the tech right, putting it together, and all the pre and post production that happens. There is a lot that goes on into delivering a 20 to 50 minute experience. And I can't thank you guys enough for showing up over and over and doing this to enrich the lives of entrepreneurs around the world. So thank you for letting me be a part of that journey.
Oh man, that's so cool. Thanks for the shout out. Yeah. Someone sees us how we wish to be seen. Yeah. So let's, man, you've, like I was saying, fascinating what you've done. And I think the thing that impresses me the most is just how fast you can scale ideas, scale something from literally nothing. And you've done this all the way back to, India, just to get over here to America, but the college, all these different things. And then of course in real estate business without even knowing real estate. I hope I'm not letting too much out of the bag, but I just want to preface it you've just figured out the right mechanisms, the systems, and you've created these really cool options. I'm kind of stealing your terminology here, but let's walk this path because we want to understand, who you are a little deeper, share you, and we'll pick out some tactics.
Well, on your website, it says from dumpster diving to building a $3 billion business. And so I think that sounds like a story that we want to hear, and I have a feeling we'll be able to pick out some little nuggets of wisdom and some tactical greatness along the way.
Yeah, you got it. Well, people don't realize this, right? So a lot of times you'll hear people say things like, well, if Joe can do it, Sharran can do it. If Matt can do it, Sharran can do it. If Sharran can do it, I can do it. And I actually think there's a fundamental flaw in that statement. And the fundamental flaw in that statement is, Joe, you were built completely different. Your skill set's completely different. Your capabilities are completely different. What you have from a risk profile perspective is completely different. Matt, same for you. It's you're completely different. And so when people say things like, oh, if he can do it, I can do it, or if she can do it, I can do it, it's significantly flawed, but there is some truth to that. And that is the truth that ties this entire story together, which is, it's not about walking on the path of the clues that were left over. It's seeing what is Joe's support system, what is Jordan's support system, what is Tiger's support system, what is Elon's support system, and can I do anything that I can to replicate that support system so that all of those capabilities become mine. And I think that what people try to do is they're like, oh, I'm just going to read Steve Jobs' book and try to be an ass like Steve, right? And so, can I cuss on the show? I should.
Sure, you can say whatever you want.
But you should beep it out, right? But the crazy part is, I think the idea of like, instead of being Joe or being Matt or being Sharran, it's like, I'm so attuned to listening to, where does Matt go when he's stuck? What broke down for Matt, and who did he talk to? Who was behind him, supporting him that he's not telling me? And can I replicate that support system? And the story on the support system, I'm super fortunate that it starts like I was a young kid with not a lot of talent. Well, I was born into a very kind of mediocre home with not a lot of wealth in a mediocre town. Everything in my life was mediocre except one thing. And I just have insanely amazing parents. And so it'd be easy for people to say I had nothing. Like I had the greatest gift of all, insanely amazing parents. Yeah. And what my parents realized is, kind of accelerate on the story, they realized pretty quickly that something was off with me. And like I was ADD, ADHD, I was dyslexic, and it took a lot of therapy to be able to like share that personally. And I think that's a healthy thing. And I used to get, beaten up at school and bullied. Dude, I had to tell you the story. So I used to walk from one classroom to the other classroom, and there were lockers in between. Yeah. And I would actually run around the entire school so that I wouldn't get like beaten in the lockers. Like, you can't even make this stuff up, right? Like, this is crazy. And I didn't hit my growth spurt until high school, whatever. And my parents realized that, who had never left India. I was born in India, by the way, never left India. And my parents are like, okay, there's got to be some other environment that can support this kid. Yeah. And my dad did a bunch of research, and he's like, hey, I'm just going to get you out of the country. You'll do better somewhere else. And like for a 10, 11-year-old, that's just like, wait, you're telling me that you don't want me anymore? Like, that's weird, right? Yeah. And so, but fast forward, my parents, not very wealthy, but very hardworking. My parents sold everything that they had. Everything. My dad sold his scooter to get me a plane ticket.
Man.
Wow.
Right? Was that like his means of transportation?
Correct.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like a little better than a Vespa, right? Like sure. And to put me on the plane, and then I show up in the U.S. And they hand me a check for a year's worth of everything. So they just pay for everything for a year, and that's all they could afford. And they said, hey, here's a year's worth of everything. If you make it, great. If you don't make it, come back, we'll take care of you. Like, so I had a really great safety net. Oh yeah. And so they hand me this check and a couple $100, and I show up on campus first day in the Midwest, and I go to financial services. I hand them my check, and they're like, great job, Sharran, welcome. Here's your dorm room keys. By the way, since it's an international check, it'll take 10 to 14 days to clear. So once it clears, we'll activate your meal plan. I was like, wait, are you kidding me? Like, what? Man. So, dude, I hit every frat party. I hit every pizza party. I hit every party that you can imagine to get food, right? Yeah. And this dumpster diving story is one day, it'd been like 36 hours inside Eaton, and I saw these guys throw a couple of boxes of pizza into a dumpster, and I was just hungry. I waited for it to kind of get later at night. I was kind of embarrassed, but hungry. I jumped in this dumpster. I grabbed pizza. I just put my hoodie on, and I dashed to my room. And you know what? It was okay. Mm-hmm. It was okay. Like it was more embarrassing thinking about doing that than actually doing it. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But then the next day is where it all comes together. The next day I was like, could I do this again? So I walked by this dumpster and I see these guys throw these Subway sandwiches into this dumpster. I was like, man, today's a bonanza. This is fantastic. Like, I literally saw from the pizza box, I didn't know what was in there, but I saw these sandwiches go in this dumpster. So I wait for nightfall. I jump in the dumpster. I grab these Subway sandwiches. I see a box of Pop-Tarts, and I'm like, Pop-Tarts? This is fantastic. This is a double bonus, right? Yeah. As soon as I grab this box of Pop-Tarts, I see these two beady eyes, yellow beady eyes looking at me. there's a raccoon in the dumpster, like, and I am not joking. It slaps me on my cheek and I start bleeding. And fight or flight kicks in, and I kick the raccoon with my foot. I could not do it again if it was choreographed. I grab this bag of sandwiches and I run.
With the Pop-Tarts, of course.
And the craziest part is I was like, should I get a tetanus shot? Like, I probably should, right? But the deepest learning there was, man, if this is what has to happen and this is how I need to survive, my capacity for risk dramatically, kind of grew. I was like, okay, I'll be okay. Like, this is crazy. I'll be okay. And I think that capacity for risk allowed me to take a ton of risk in my career, and which the average person would have not taken. Like I reverse mortgaged my house. I did ridiculous things. I lost along the way, but I think the capacity of risk from the dumpster diving story is. And it took me, 20 plus years to be in a place where I can share that story publicly after therapy. And I think it's been very cathartic. Now my therapist told me the day you can actually laugh and tell the story is the day you have healed.
Yeah, and you've been laughing this whole time, kind of with a smirk on your. There you go. We're there.
Yeah,
we met you then. It's I have researched your story, and I think you left a other traumatic or almost traumatic event that was right when you got into the U.S. You took the incorrect bus, or at least the wrong direction. Talk about just that, because that's thinking on your feet, and I would say that's a pretty stressful situation too.
Yeah. So this was pre-days of cell phones and things like that, right? So I had some guy, some volunteer, like willing to pick this lonely kid up from India at the airport, Chicago O'Hare, and so I'm waiting at the airport, and 2 hours go by, 4 hours go by, 8 hours go by, like nobody comes. And then the public address system goes off. And I'll tell you one thing, you do not want your name called on the public address system, right? Like that's it. There's nothing ever good comes out of that, right? and so there's Sharran Srivatsaa, I don't even know how he pronounced my name. Sharran Srivatsaa, please report to a white courtesy phone. So I pick up the phone and the guy's like, hey, your ride got stuck. The car broke down. He wants you to take a bus 52 to Moline, Illinois. And I'm like, I just landed. I have no idea where anything is. And where is Moline, Illinois? Yeah. Right? And so, of course, I grab my stuff and I jump on a bus. And 4 hours later, I asked the bus driver, I'm like, where are we? He's like, La Crosse, Wisconsin. And for those of you who know geography, it's like the opposite direction. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, it's night. I'm at a bus depot. He's like, kid, you may want to go in and just kind of chill out for a minute. So I grabbed my stuff, which is just a bag of clothes, and I grabbed my stuff. I had $110 just in my pocket, and I get out of the bus, and like a mugger jumps out of nowhere and says, I get mugged on my first 24 hours in the U.S.
In America, yeah.
I didn't even have anything, right? I had this check. I didn't even have a wallet. Wow. And so again, this is me laughing about this story, but it was freaky, dude. It was fascinating.
Of course. Yeah.
So he said, "Hey, give me your money and whatever." And I kept my $100 in my pocket. Finally, he was like, "You cannot not have any money." And I said, "Well," and I didn't want to die because I said, "Well, I have $100. You look like a nice guy. I know you don't want to hurt me, and I would really like to just get to school. So if you don't mind, I'll give you this $100. Maybe you can give me 50 back." And he just starts I saw him crack a smile, and I knew I had something there. And I remember this vividly. He opened his ratty wallet. He takes my 100 and he dishes me out a 20, 20, and a 5. So he gives me $45 back, and the guy takes off. And I stayed alive. I'm alive to tell the story, but it's sometimes people who are hurt are the ones that hurt people, right? So when someone is hurtful to you or me, there's an underlying hurt there, and I think that's a good lesson for all of us to learn. I was thinking on my feet, whatever. That was desperation, but the big lesson I take away from that is we all are going to deal with people, both personally and professionally, who feel like they're hurting us. Mm-hmm. And I think the first thing that should come to our minds is when we feel hurt is the reason they're hurting us is because they are hurting themselves. And if you can just inject some compassion to that, no normal person walks around wanting to hurt Joe and Matt. Like that does not work that way, right?
Come on, these guys.
Matt maybe, but like,
I mean, you know the circles I run in yet.
but I think that was a big lesson for. So now even when the stakes are high, when people get mad at me, when the crazy people yell at me on phone, like whatever you're doing, I start to realize that okay, if they're hurting me, they're probably hurt in some way, so let me try to soften that. And that's been like my big lesson in that process.
That's huge. I mean, and I know therapy, I'm sure just going through that process, we've done a lot of therapy type stuff, and there's always so much learning. There's layers, and then you start understanding how humans act and how we're all very, very similar with our needs and wants, and just becoming more empathic, I think, is like what happens over time. And it's exactly what you said. You start to almost see the attacker or whatever, you're a perpetrator, and you're like, whatever. It's $55, and then he dished out. So, but at the end of the day, a great lesson that you can take into everything else, and resilience. I'm curious because you definitely, like in that moment, you were thinking on your feet. Did you have? It seems like you're very persuasive. Like you said you saw the smile kind of crack in his face. Like, did you just pick that up naturally?
I think we all have some gifts, and I probably do one or two things well, and one of those is I could probably just read people a little better. Like I can see some micro emotions, and I think those help a lot just from human connection. I thrive a lot. I'm an extrovert. I thrive a lot on human connection. And when someone's, when people, when you see ruffles in their eyebrows, or when they shrug, or when they sit back, or when they move forward, or put their hand, like you learn that in NLP and like in negotiation. But I don't know that I don't have a playbook for it, but I'm fortunate that I just sense it energetically.
Yeah.
And that's probably just a gift. And I know right away. I'm like, oh, okay. I probably said something to offend him. Let me unfold my hands. Maybe he'll mirror and match and unfold them as well, or something like that. Yeah. But that's probably just an innate gift that I'm super excited about.
I think it is because I mean I've been told I have that same thing, so I'm noticing it in you. I'm like, okay, like I see it, like this is interesting, and I wanted to highlight that because that is a superpower, and that's something like I didn't notice for a long time. But we have different, obviously, ways of going about it. But it's cool to just notice that and like see how you've been able to carry that throughout, going into businesses where you didn't even know the business or the industry, and you're able to basically figure out a way in because the whole growth hacking, kind of skipping ahead there a little bit, and actually kind of lost got a little excited on that side there, but I wanted to go back to kind of thinking about like the business side of stuff. So part of your journey, I know, fell into you went over to San Francisco, I believe, and got into tech and that whole kind of space, right? And so how did that kind of develop there? You kind of found your way out of college. I know through college you had some interesting stories of kind of, making money that were not the normal way of going about things. So.
Yeah, well, it's super like accelerated on that. I had 1 year's worth of tuition. I had 1 year's worth of everything. I just had to make money. So necessity is the mother of everything, right? So you figure it out. But more importantly, I gravitated towards the computer stuff. I felt like it came naturally, and it was a chance for me. The U.S. was a chance for me to do everything that I wanted, as opposed to what was told of me. And I had friends that were what do they call art history majors. By the way, like if you told my dad that I was going to become an art history major, he'd be like, "What is art history? Like how can you do that?" But the cool part is, if you can do art history, you can do anything, right? Like, and I think that was a kind of a permission slip for me to say, just do whatever comes naturally. And so I got a computer science and math degree, and I was pitching at this programming contest, computer science programming contest at Berkeley, and there were 3 judges who were judging this contest. And I share my white paper on what I wrote, like, half drunk in my dorm room, and he comes up to me after and he's like, "Hey, Sharran, great presentation. You're not going to win." I was like, okay. But there are 3 guys that I was an angel investor in that I think your idea could help them. You should talk to them. I said, okay, like I don't have any. I was like, sure, sounds good. So I joined those guys in their startup. So I was not a founder, but I was kind of early 3rd or 4th employee. So I had founding stock. We were building stuff in the telecommunications space. So we spent a lot of time raising money, and I'd never raised any money before. So we raised tens of millions of dollars during the .com kind of era. And then we were fortunate to get a great exit where my partners or the founders did really well and I did fine. And that was a right place, right time, right support system. And so that angel investor who introduced me to that company 22 years later is my business partner.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
So was he? Yeah. So he literally was. Wow. Yeah. He was a coach and a guy that stood up for you back then, and kind of basically all the way through now. That's amazing. What role does he play in your business here? So
super simple. For the last 20 years and all the stuff that we've built, he's chairman, I'm CEO. Like super easy. He's a little older than I am. He's like, I call him, he's Yoda. So he's 67. And he helps me think better and I do the rest. And it works really well because I always know that I have, again, it goes back to our support system conversation. Yeah. I know that I can do more because I have him to help my capacity for risk, and I have a support system. Like I take on more risk because I have a much better support system. Most people don't take on that risk, and people think the support system is a cushion of money. I think the support system is just people that can get you out of jams, right? Yeah. And so there's so many, and he's an attorney, so there's so many legal jams. He's like, oh yeah, don't worry about that. I'll review the contract. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. But the average entrepreneur won't have that, right? And so I've gotten myself out of a lot of jams just because of just having good support systems.
Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense. And I want to, talk a little bit about how you approach business and growth, because I know that's a super impressive thing. So you have the story, but also the way that you just get growth just from an idea and a concept, and you have some principles, I believe, some growth kind of levers. So I'd love to hear your thoughts around how you step into a company. You don't know the industry, but you know the vision, you have a goal, and you just go right through it.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting part is the simpler you make it, the easier it is to execute on, right? Otherwise, there's my coach right now says, you can only ride one horse. And so that's the first principle, which is singularity of focus. If we can't organize all our thinking into, hey, I Sharran, wake up in the morning and I focus on one thing. And it sounds simple, but we may spend 12, 18, 24 months trying to figure out what that one thing is. And honestly, it bothers people that they're not making progress in those 24 months. But for me, I'm just like, I can't sleep because I'm so enamored by trying to figure out that one thing. Because I know that as soon as I get that, it's jamming all the way through. The businesses that we have, by the way, full disclosure, we have crashed and burned and failed a bunch of times. And I will tell you all of them, Matt and Joe, all of them were because I couldn't find the singularity of focus fast enough.
Wow. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so singularity of focus, number one. So if we can figure out what that number one thing is, it allows us to organize all our thoughts and resources under that. Because then you can say, okay, is this trip to Hawaii, does that benefit the singularity of focus? No, don't do it. Oh, is this meeting, even though it feels expensive, benefit that singularity of focus? Yes, go do it. So it almost like it encapsulates purpose in a lot of ways, which I think is super helpful. So that's number one. Yeah. Number two, and you can apply this across any business as well. So number two is the cadence of accountability. People just, the most important word there is the cadence. A lot of times people are like, oh, I'll check in with my mentor once a month. I'm like, no, bro, today, every day.
Yeah.
Like every day. And I'll give you a great story on the cadence of accountability. I was trying to wake up at early in the morning. And I was like, okay, well, how do I wake up early in the morning? And, it's a couple of health reasons, whatever. And I said, well, it'd be great if I woke up at 5 a.m. for 30 days in a row. And you and I both know if we put 5 a.m. on the gym on our calendar, we're not like, maybe you guys are, but like I'm not, I'm not going to do it consistently. So I texted 3 of my friends and I said, hey guys, do you mind for just the next 7 days, you jump on like this conference call at 5 a.m. and I'm going to jump on. It'll just force me to get up because I know that I won't let you down. And they were like, you were weird, dude. So they agreed to do that. And they were on the East Coast. I was on Pacific time. So it was 8 a.m. for them. So it was actually not bad, right? So they all dialed, three of us, all of us dial into this conference call number. And I dial in the first day and it goes ding, ding, ding. So I hear the 3 people come on. And then they're all there because they're muted, their line. And so I said, well, I should probably say something. So I tell a joke the first day. And they're like, oh, that's pretty funny. And the next day, 5 a.m. happens. I hear ding, 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 ding. I go, that's weird. Like a 4th person's on today. That's strange. So I give like a inspirational message or something like that in 2 to 3 minutes. The 3rd day I hear ding, 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 ding. I'm like, wait, why are they 10 people on this call?
That's cool.
And then in the 3rd day there were 10. And then I was like, well, I got to come up with a good message. So I deliver a good message. And the 4th day, it was just a lot of dings, right? And I go, well, this is a lot of dings. And so people were sharing the call number with other people. And so this 5 a.m. club, this real 5 a.m. club was born at 5 a.m. Pacific time. And I started doing it 5 days a week. And I did a 30-day challenge. And then so I did this 30-day challenge. I didn't tell anybody. On the 31st day, I came back on the call and I still heard everybody back on the call. I was like, well, I guess I've given myself a little cadence of accountability here. I got a bunch of people on this call. So it started off with 330, 300, 3,000. Today we have close to 7,000 people a part of this community.
Wow.
And we have thousands of people on the call every morning. And even today, if you jump on, I know, Joe, you'll hear the ding, 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 ding of people coming on, which is awesomely magical. And it's totally free. But I will tell you, no one can, it's one of those things that you can never beat me at because I have a 2,000-day lead, right? Like, so even if you started today, I'm still winning, and which is pretty cool. So the second thing is cadence of accountability. The third thing is, good process drives good results. And a lot of times we think that, we'll just hack it. Hey, just hack the website, hack the funnel, hack the ad, just get the result, hack the email system, just hack everything. And that's fine to a point, but you're going to just get hacky stuff is going to get you hacky results.
Right.
And so I always tell our teams, hey, let's front load the process, like front load all the effort. You may have to spend a little extra time just designing this workflow better. Do it. It's fine. Right. Because the good process will drive good results. So most scale problems happen because you have to bring in a new COO and rebuild a process. But if you build the process first in the first place, you don't need a problem. You don't need that. So I always hammer when I go into a business is singularity to focus. That takes the longest time to find. Cadence of accountability. That's the easiest to put in place. And then good process drive good results is like you look at systems and say, can this be a better process and can that deliver more efficiency because that helps you scale faster?
Yeah. Do you have any advice on finding that singularity of focus? If that's the hardest thing for somebody to do and it could take, 24 months, are there, I don't want to say shortcuts because, hacks get you hacky results, but what advice would you give to help find that?
Yeah, super easy actually. It's the first principles thinking of what Elon talks about a lot. You just ask, let's say you come up with, I always try to come up with one thing that I think is the answer. And my job is to constantly disprove that. Because if you try to figure the answer out, you'll say, well, it's not that. I always say, well, I think it's our lead gen. Okay, great. And then I say, well, let's prove it. If I only focus on my lead gen, will everything work in the business? Well, this will work. Oh, no. Okay, well, it's not lead gen then. What is it? So I always pick one. And then I ask does this hold true? And then they get the next one, does this hold true? Get the next one, does this hold true? Get the next one. So that process of iterating and trying to figure out it's way easier to start with something as an assumption, as a hypothesis, and then say, does it work? And I'll give you guys, in our real estate business, I had no idea. We jumped into the real estate business and people were like, hey, we're not extremely profitable. So I was like, if we just fix our profitability, we'll be fine. So I worked for 9 months fixing ops, fixing back-end profitability, hiring a new CFO, fixing our books. And then still 9 months later, I was like, that didn't do anything. And I go, well, clearly I had this wrong. And then I realized that, okay, the big driver for us was recruiting and getting salespeople in to sell more stuff. And then I asked the question, well, if I got more salespeople in to sell more stuff, can other people do X job, Y job, Z job? And that was an iterative process. As soon as we hit that, man, I focused everything on me being the number one kind of recruiter of talent in the firm. And I called it the 10 butt rule. Anytime there were 10 butts in a room, I would show up because I knew that I could pluck somebody out of there and kind of recruit them to be a part of them. So the 10 butt rule literally built our $3.4 billion company.
So you're just spotting talent based off of what you know is going to work, and you need to scale this thing, and you need people to drive that scale. You're gonna pluck one of those 10 butts in whatever room they're showing up in.
Yeah, and it also gave me the focus that, hey, if there's not 10 butts, I'm not showing up.
Right.
And so over time, the 10 butt rule became the 25 butt rule, became the 50 butt rule. But I told my assistant, you have a conference with 10 butts in a room where Sharran can present, I'm in. And so, hey, Joe and Matt have a podcast at least 10 people listen to. You guys have millions of people to listen to it. I'm in, right? And so it's really, really powerful because it also gives you a filter to say, hey, the singularity of focus is nothing than a mother filter, right? That's all this is.
Right. Yeah.
And once you have that mother filter, that's when like powerful things start to happen.
Well, and you know the questions to ask. You have a better idea of where you're going and where you think you're gonna, or how you think you're gonna get there. But you can ask for feedback or advice along the way, and keep pointing you in the right space. There's something that maybe helped you with this. You said something where in a previous, one of these things we were researching is that you listed your company for sale, or you did that kind of practice every single year, and then you got feedback from people who were prospective buyers and told you what to do. So like I don't know if that lands true or that fits in the singularity of focus, but I feel like it allowed you to get some really good results or feedback.
Yeah, so that fits into the third bucket, which is good process. So a lot of like what I do now is, my friends call me the deal whisperer, which sounds very like weird, but that's my jam, right? I've done hundreds of deals. I love structuring deals. It gets me super excited. And when someone tells me that they want to sell their business, and I'm like, great, let's do it right now. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you have no idea who your buyer is, what it's worth. We don't know anything. I said, let's put together a one-pager and let's go start to see if someone's interested. The faster we can get it's no different than, us putting up a landing page or running a random ad, right? It's just, let's get it up and running. And people will tell us, especially when they want to put their money to buy an asset, they'll say, well, I'll pay you X because ABC is missing. I'm like, oh, thank you very much, right? So every year we would take our company to market and I would just kind of privately shop it. And I'd gotten really connected with the people that were potentially going to buy us. And they'll say, hey, we'll pay you X. And I said, well, why? And they'll say, well, because these 12 things are missing. And I go, great. I took those 12 things, handed to my COO. And I'm like, this is our business plan for next year. Looking back, it sounds like genius. But while I'm in it, it was deeply desperate, right?
I bet.
And so I think that anything that we do, anytime you guys come to me and say, hey, I want to do blank, I'd be like, let's go do it right now in the most rudimentary way, because it allows us to go through the paces to figure out if there is a right fit there. So whether you're starting a Facebook group, launching a podcast, whatever, I think getting in action, even in the most rudimentary way, allows you to get feedback so you can fix it much faster.
That makes sense. Yeah, it starts shining a light on the path, and you can then figure out what to do with it at that point and see where to go.
Yeah.
That's interesting. There was you know what I want to bring up is actually what we talked about pre-chat, which was your podcast, and let's say the two things you wish you would have done earlier. Let's discuss those, because I feel like it's very relevant to where we're at right here.
Well, I think you guys will really appreciate them. This can be tactical that everybody can use. So what happened was, we on the Sharran personal brand, we have experimented with how to monetize it and being super open and honest about it. So it's like, hey, do you sell products? Do you sell courses? Do you sell swag? Do I sell coaching? What is it? And we're kind of playing with it. And we have a little bit of all of it just as an experiment. And it's been a fun experiment over the last 3 years. One of my growth hacking teammates said, hey, Sharran, this is what we're going to do. I want to do a cohort test. And we did 2 cohorts, and we brought them into 2 separate kind of landing pages. So literally, we split the funnel into 2, right? Mm-hmm. And so we got it was like 120 people in each cohort, and we gave different interactions very tactically to each cohort. And it's pretty cool. So like each cohort was on a separate email blast. They were in separate Facebook groups. They were on getting separate things. And it was a pure test. And I didn't know anything about this, right? Like good on them for doing this. So they did this process for it was like fourth quarter of last year or something like that. And I had our team meeting and the guy comes to me. He's like, dude, you should look at these results. And I said, okay. And he goes, cohort A is interesting, but cohort B, there's something that happens at the 47th minute mark. I'm like, what 47th minute mark are you talking about? And they said, well, we send them an email, we send them text messages, we send them to podcast interviews or videos that you've watched. We tell them snippets of stuff. And he said, I gave each one a score. I gave an email a 1 minute score. I gave a text message a 30-second score. And then every audio or video segment, I knew what the score was, like amount of time. And he goes, roughly around the 47th minute, they buy something.
Wow.
I was like, wait, what do they buy? They're like, it doesn't matter. But at the 47th minute, they become a really engaged subscriber. So they either start writing in some more, they start commenting on posts, they actually buy some. Their engagement level flips from below the line to above the line. Wow. And so we dug into the data, and I'm calling this the idea of time on brand. So we realized that for me, personally, if I can get people into a certain way and they can spend 47 minutes with me, they flip to a completely engaged, different type of person in my community. But before all of this, all I was doing, I like writing email. I'm not super fancy internet marketers like you guys are. Like you guys are all over the place. You guys are all over the place. Like, it's awesome. But I was like, okay, I write email and my Facebook posts are about my kids. Like literally that's all I got going on. I have nothing else. So I was thinking, if in each email is 1 minute, I need 47 emails, which means I write 3 emails a week. That's a lot of weeks to get them time on brand. So my idea was, I was like, well, I need to do either short video clips or short audio clips. And I was like, well, I don't want to do video clips because it takes forever to produce it. I get all weird up. My team's like, that's not professional and it's not raw. And I'm like, okay. So I just literally picked up my headset. I would just record audio, like short ones, and they would put it up on a landing page and say, Sharran recorded this audio. And it would be 4 to 7 minutes long. And that was the launch of this mini podcast idea. We didn't publish any of it. They literally would send people to a landing page of 4 to 7 minutes of me just talking on an audio. And now I got 4 to 7 minutes of extra time on brand. So now I was like, okay, this is amazing. Like, what if someone actually could plug me in their ears for 30 to 40 minutes? In 2 podcast episodes, I would completely compress my time on brand. Yeah. And that became the launch of the podcast. So I launched my podcast during the pandemic because I realized this time on brand idea. And I'll give you the second thing so after we did that, I was like, okay, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
So we started doing the podcast. And then one day I was like, what would be amazing is I went back to all the live keynotes that I had done. And I asked the organizers for the keynotes. And I said, hey, listen, do you mind if I won't sell these. I won't do any of these. I'll reference it was you. I'll tag you, all of that. But can I just use these keynotes in just broad-based, non-paid promotion? And, a bunch of them said yes. So I took these full 60-minute keynotes. Mm-hmm. And we ran 60-minute keynotes as straight up ads on Facebook.
That's so cool. I've heard of this happening, but a very few people, but that's brilliant.
Because I was like, I just need more time on brand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just started running lookalike audiences of my email list. Mm-hmm. And we just literally, it was like, show them no call to action. It was nothing. It was no call to action, nothing. It was like, hey, join Sharran's 4-week MBA, 4weekmba.com or something it's totally free, nothing, no hard sell. But I just wanted people to just get more of me time on brand. And I was like, if they don't like me, they're just not going to hang out with me. That's totally fine. Those 2 things, just getting, even now we run straight every time I do a keynote. And we would just if you guys were to give me a recording of this podcast episode, my team would just run the whole thing as an ad.
You'll see an email tomorrow.
It's brilliant. They would just optimize for video views. And I'll tell you exactly, this is the tactical part. All we did was we ran it as an ad. We'd optimize for video views only, so people get video views. And anybody that's watched over X minutes or X% of time, we would just retarget them with an offer. That's it.
Perfect.
It's Frank Kern's intent-based branding or whatever he calls it, but I didn't know any of that. I heard that later. But we just run. So I wish I'd started doing that way sooner, and I wish I started doing the podcast sooner, because now the comments that come back for us are like, I'll get an Instagram comment that's like 3 paragraphs long.
Wow.
Hey, I listened to
that's
your
never
podcast
happened.
with Joe and Matt and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. Right? Like, and so someone's actually like gone through this entire content, which is amazing. So if I could go back and do anything over, I would have started my podcast way sooner, and I would have started running straight up branded ads of just all my keynotes as an ad. If I just started doing those 2 things, the trajectory of just time on brand would have been a whole new thing in my world.
Oh, that's so cool. Are you on YouTube with your podcast at all?
No,
not video. Yeah,
probably should.
We're just noticing the growth from our side of things. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Just for the organic side of stuff too, but let alone the whole ad platform.
Yeah, it's a lot easier on YouTube for people to just kind of stumble across your stuff, where in the podcast world they kind of got to be driven to your stuff. Yeah.
Spot on. Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right.
And there was something that, because throughout your work and what you've been, what you present, you talk about options and having enough options or good options for yourself. And I think putting your business on the market helps a lot with those. But also, we were talking very briefly. Podcasts do that really well too, because you're constantly, depending on the style of podcast, you have different guests that come on. You have an opportunity to open that door, start a conversation that goes deeper. Eventually later follow ups and all that stuff. That's where we found it being this kind of hub for things for us to give us all sorts of options.
Well, systematized networking is really what we built the podcast around.
Process,
it's a system to get networked with people like you.
Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah.
So,
I'm curious about. I want to go back to the 5 a.m. club thing again, because I know, Joe, you did it this morning, and I've always been this night owl, right? I find the quiet time at like after the kids are in bed and my wife goes to bed, like 11 o'clock to like 1 o'clock is when I seem to get real focused. So I'm curious, what sort of benefits and results have you seen from the 5 a.m. thing? Because it seems to be a pretty common trend among highly successful people, is that they wake up really, really early. And for whatever reason, I've convinced myself that my brain can't do that as well. But so I'm curious about the benefits you've seen from it.
Yeah, let's actually let's kind of break that belief pattern for a second first, right? You can do whatever you want, right? Like first know that you can do whatever you want, and you may. I'm a night owl, so I'm a night owl. There are times where I can still I can grind and go through the night, etc. But what I found is, Matt, on the what the 5 a.m. club has done for me is that I only have one alarm on my phone. So I wake up at 4:45 every single day, and I just know that regardless of what happens, that alarm goes up at the same time every day, and it's just regulated biorhythms for me. And over time now, I used to go to bed at 11:30, midnight. It slowly started to become 10, started to become 9, started to become 8. I mean, now with the kids, but as soon as I put my kids to bed, I get in bed. Right. Like it's pretty wild. But that morning time has allowed me to just have some personal reflection time. And I think that it's not about, I get some time to do some thinking about my thinking. It's like, why am I thinking about this way? Why do I feel the fear this way? And I think in the evening, I can't tell the difference between a frustration and being tired.
Makes sense.
And yes, I can chug an espresso, but now I have a stimulant based result, which I don't know what the truth is. So in the mornings, I'm fairly clear. I don't have any clutter. I don't check my email. I don't need to for 2 hours in the morning. And what I've realized is a lot of people they'll say, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. And they put a lot of pressure on themselves at what they wake up and do. I wake up and only do joyful things. So I'll tell you what I do. And you're going to laugh at this. I wake up in the morning at 4:45. I chug water that's right beside my bed, because someone told me that was good to do, so I just do that, right? Anytime someone smart tells me something, I'm like, that's a good
brilliant,
idea, right? And if it's not hard and doesn't cost money, that's fantastic, right? And then at 5 a.m. I do the call. It takes 3 to 5 minutes, and then I play Words with Friends with my dad at 5:05.
That's
awesome.
cool.
I don't do Tai Chi and 500 push-ups. No, I sit in front of the fire and play Words with Friends with my dad for 20, 30 minutes. My dad lives in India. It's the greatest time for him and me to hang out. And then if I feel good, I might go for a walk. If I feel like energetic, I might work out. If I feel like I don't want to go outside and it's cold, I might ride the Peloton. Like I have zero pressure. And so sometimes I can't believe I'm telling you this. I fell asleep. I kicked the seat back in my Tesla and I fell asleep in my car in the garage. Right? And meaning you do whatever, like it's your time. And I think that's been like, I don't work or anything at that time. What it's allowed me to do is just given me a little bit of space to figure out, hey, what do I do during this time? And that's given me time to just think. And I think that I believe, and I know that if there's anything profound that I can say is when you're in the how and do part of our lives, the world is very linear. Hey, how do I do this? I have to go do this. It's very like trade time for activity. But when you're in the what and why part of your life, everything is exponential. Hey, why am I thinking about this? Why am I scared about this? What should I do with this? What can I, why should I partner with Joe and Matt? Like that allows me to think so much bigger about stuff. And not because we spend a lot of our days very to-do list and calendar driven. It's like, you're trading. I hate to call it the trading time for money, but there's an effort to time.
Right.
And that space, dude, I will tell you, those 2 hours, I'm a better dad because I get to wake up my kids in the morning and they're just like, they love it because every single time when I wake them up, I'm so positive. I'm so energetic. I've cleaned out all the dark stuff out of my head. And most people don't have a time to clean out that dark stuff. And that's why a lot of people like to work out or run or whatever. But for me, that's just the time that I've utilized. And everybody in my house thinks I'm crazy, right? Everyone has to sleep. No one wakes up till 7 a.m. But there are some days where I'm just tired and I will, I'll text one of my co-hosts on the 5 a.m. I'm like, hey, can you cover today? And they'll cover on a Saturday and I'll sleep in. So I think, talk about options, Joe, I just give myself like this whole rigidity of being David Goggins. It's just not my jam. I don't want to run 100 miles tomorrow.
Why not? Come on. You're not trying hard enough.
I just want to, I think when you give yourself the gift of, doing what you want without judgment, I think it just like you have a much happier life. You're better around a lot of people. And I can tell with my kids, they're like, oh, when I get to hang out with dad, it's chill and it's cool. Yeah. And so I try to spend a lot of my time just saying, hey, what do I feel like doing? Oh, and a lot of times I feel like working. Like I want to hang out. I want to talk to you guys. I'm super grateful to be on the show. Yeah. And after this, if I, I'm like, do I do 30 minutes of email or do I just go for a walk? I go for a walk, like whatever, And so I think giving yourself the options are good but you need time and space to reconcile that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. That's super helpful.
It's true too, because today was only day one, but something driven. I mean, obviously the fact that we're about to chat today, but also like it's just I literally saved it as a favorite, the number. Which how can folks go find it?
Super easy. It's 100% free. It's 5amclub.net. So 5amclub.net is it's not even a sign up. You just get to call a number. Yep. I made it so easy that there's not even a pin. So it's just like you save it as a favorite, you click, it takes you right into the call. I even leave the call open for a minute so you can hear everybody in the background, and that seems to drive humanity around it because they're all real people. People always say they're like, hey, this is Mike, Mike from Albany, New York, and I'm like, that's so cool that I know all these people from around the world.
Yeah. Well, you were the first one to wish me good morning today because with every ding, you're like, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I was like, this is really cool. So, but for me mentally, like what I did this morning, it was way darker than normal. Like I meditate. I did like a breathing thing, but the first thing that popped in my mind was like, this is my time. Like this is my time, and it's you kind of even said it here. I think is like you could just created space for yourself, and it's as simple as just saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to hop on with a whole bunch of people, but you're going to say some really smart stuff that's going to probably buzz my mind a little bit. I'm not going to go back to sleep at this point. Right. So yeah, I mean, it just sets the day into this kind of calm, happy, energized space, and you're right around the kids too. Like I felt great about the family this morning. I was like, wow, I'm like motivated to go get, it's gonna be a long day of all the podcasts and stuff. I was like, you know what, this is great. Yeah. 5 a.m.
You brought up something. I'll give you exactly. So I don't have a lot of. I don't do a lot of coaching, mentoring, and all of that. I have a small handful of CEOs that I work with. Some are publicly traded company CEOs, and all of them came to me through a personal connection. And it's great. It's awesome. I always tell them this is what I help them work on. And most of them have been with me 5, 10, 15 years.
Wow.
So like I have one of them that I don't even talk to. We only do Voxer, and he's a client for life, which is way cool, right? But there's only, if anybody wants to diagnose their lives, and there's only 3 things that I work on with them all the time. It is, how do you fix your calendar, which is how do you fix your time, right? That's number 1. How do you fix your spreadsheet, which is how do you fix your money? And number 3, how do you fix your journal, which is how do you fix your thinking? And almost any problem is either a calendar problem, a spreadsheet problem, or a journal problem. Almost always.
Wow.
Right? And so if you think about it, you're like, hey man, I'm really stressed out. My first go-to is, Joe, pull up your calendar. Like on Zoom, I'm like, well, of course, you're back to back and you've had no time to think about anything. You're just stressed because your switching costs from back to back are that. Let's just create a half a day, not off, but no meetings. You literally decompress because you got some time freedom back, because we were not built to be like that. For most people, they don't have spreadsheet clarity. They're like, I'm working really hard, but I'm not making the money. That's just because they don't have the spreadsheet math done right. When I say spreadsheet, I just mean their math is off, right, in some way. So they don't realize that the activities that they perform is not delivering the results that they want. And that's okay, but I have to shine a spotlight on it. And that's a spreadsheet problem. And then if I can't figure out if it's either of those, I know there's something in their thinking. Now, I'm not like trying to be a mindset guru, but I'm like, well, you don't have space to think. So like Matt, like you said, you're waking up in the morning. I'm like, well, I don't write in my journal. I'm like, well, okay, if you were to write, what would you write? And I'm like, tell me right now. Right. And then he'll say, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you're editing. I can see you editing what you're going to tell me, because you're not being, I'm like, you're worried about your wife. You're worried about your kids. You're worried about, you wanting that Ferrari or you not being able to afford it. Like, I want to know that, right? Because that's the journal problem, because then you have a complete identity issue, because that's why the other 2 things don't work. And so literally, most times when someone gets on a call with me and they're like, hey, I'm like, there's a good chance that in 45 minutes, I can fix whatever you're working on, because it's one of those 3. And now, can I give you a longevity-based solution? No. But whatever the instant pressure that you have, I can release that pretty quickly, because I've seen so many calendar problems, so many journal problems, so many spreadsheet problems. And I've heard every excuse of, well, I'm too busy. I can't move that one-on-one. This is a client call. I've heard every excuse in the book, right? And I'm like, well, can I give you a script that you can send to your client right now? Oh, that'll be great. Like, whatever, right? Like, there's a way to do that. But almost all problems in the world can be solved with just thinking about whether it's a calendar problem, a spreadsheet problem, or a journal problem.
That's brilliant.
That is amazing. We will probably forever use that from here on out. That is such a good tool to give people.
We're gonna talk about it in our outro after we say goodbye for the evening. So you just left us with some wisdom that we're gonna definitely go deep on.
Yeah, I know you got to jump on another call here in a minute. Do you want to tell us quickly about the 4-week MBA and tell our listeners how they can go check that out, please?
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you. So during the pandemic, what happened was a lot of my clients in mastermind groups and all of them, they were like, hey, what do we do right now? So I was like, well, I don't know. And so I went to this singularity of focus. I was like, hey, how do I bring everybody together? And then I said, well, what's the cadence of accountability around this? Well, let me do a call every day. So I did a call every day for 4 weeks. So it's Monday through Friday for 4 weeks. And I did a 10-minute call, and it was distilling one business lesson that I learned in the last 20 years. So I have 20 business lessons in 10-minute calls, and it's done over 4 weeks. So it's called the 4-week MBA. It's totally free. It's just to give people a chance to saying, hey, download 20 years of pain and wisdom in 10 minutes each, and hopefully that's up. It's totally free. It's 4weekmba.com. So jump on it if you like, and you'll see everything there.
Man, cool. I love it. You give so much away, and I appreciate your time investment into all of this too, because like with the 5 a.m. club, you're hooked now. You can't go anywhere, but it's a great thing. It's obviously growing. So thank you very much, Sharran. Appreciate your time.
Cool. Yeah, man. Thank you.
Sharran left us with a big nugget of wisdom.
Oh yeah,
right at the end.
Yeah, right at the very end of the episode, right before we had to end it, he broke down his whole thing about the calendar versus spreadsheet versus journal, right? And it was this philosophy of like, any problem can be solved by looking at your calendar. You're either trying to squeeze too much in, and that's why you're stressed out. A spreadsheet problem, money issues or whatever. Well, there's some sort of math going on here that you need to figure out. Or a journaling problem. Okay, it's a mindset thing. There's something going on up here that's holding you back right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant. It's like you can really sum up almost any problem that you encounter with one of those three things. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe I would add a fourth, like a communication problem.
Yeah, communicating wants, needs, emotions, whatever, like, your thoughts in general. Maybe that's a mindset thing, though.
Yeah, that could be under journaling.
Yeah, because that allows you to kind of communicate clear. Yeah. A quote that I heard him say on a different podcast was, "Fear has no place on paper." And I bet it relates to his journaling thing too. It's like once you put it on paper, well, it allows you so much freedom in whatever you want to do. Whatever's hanging you up. I'm sure just writing it down, it's like you work through it just like by doing that.
He didn't say that on our podcast?
I don't think so, but I know I wrote this down from another podcast. Okay. But anyway, it relates to what he said here.
Yeah. Now you can see people listening / watching, you can see how we get our wires crossed because we do research by listening to a bunch of podcasts and then we interview him and then we lose track of what he said on our podcast versus the ones we did the research around.
Yeah, that's true. That happens. That was some big wisdom there. And it's crazy when he was like, "Yeah, you spend 45 days or minutes with me, and I could probably solve some of the big, the issues, the roadblocks, whatever's hanging you up."
Yeah.
And that's just, it's infinitely important because once you learn that and see, like, oh crap, like waking up early in the morning, that just kind of created a whole new schedule, and I'm sticking with it at least 30 days, like you said, 30-day challenge, But
I'm going to wait because one of these days I'm going to see you on Slack at like 1 a.m. I'll be like, "Are you looking at NFTs at 1 a.m. again, Joe?"
Go to sleep. Sharran's going to wake you up.
You got to be up in 4 hours.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm okay with that. Or not with that, actually. I want to sleep. But definitely today, maybe it was a bad day to start at 5 a.m. today on a long podcast day. But it's all good. Had to start at any time. So I chose today.
Yeah. The other thing that I really liked what he said was, just something to the effect, I don't remember the exact wording, but something to the effect of spend more time in the what and why. Yeah. Basically what and whys are kind of exponential. The thinking can go anywhere, right? But then there's the when and how, right? The when and how is the sort of action things. You only have so many windows of when things can take place. You only have so much time and so much availability and so much resources for the how of things, right? But when you stay like living in the what and the why, you get to have that exponential thinking. You can kind of grow your thoughts and yes and each other, right? Like yes, and we can do this and then this, and then we can also add this, and the reason the customers will love this is because it provides them with this, and then you start to get into this exponential thinking of like yes, and we can also do this and grow it this way, and then like living in that space is what we absolutely love. And, you're going to be hearing us a lot on our podcast talking about how we're paring things down and cutting out a lot more from our business and, shifting focuses a little bit. And it really is that. It's because we enjoy so much spending the time in the what and the why in the dreamer's room.
That's where we shine.
Yeah,
it is.
So there's like the dreamer's room and the critic's room and then the doer's room, right? We like hanging out in the dreamer's room and maybe spending a little time in the critic's room.
Yeah.
But the doer's room is the room that we're always kind of like,
it's not our room.
Maybe tomorrow,
Yeah, it's definitely like when it comes down, like we'll execute on the things that we execute on the important stuff. But let's be honest, we're not the one. We would never be a Sharran driving a company to scale and do all these things. We would, but we wouldn't be the ones doing the driving. Like that. Yeah, we wouldn't do the when and the hows. Yeah, because inherently you have. I guess you have limitations. Yeah, you have a time limitation with the win, and then the how is like maybe a skill limitation, a people limitation. Can't quite do it all, so you got to hire people or resources, all that stuff, software, tools, maybe a money thing too. But yeah, the why and the what. It's smart because that's like mental models. It's business models.
Yeah,
it's thinking of trends and SWOT analysis. And another exercise he talked about how every list every new project he launches or whatever. This again was not on the podcast. I know of this because I drew a little doodle down here. But basically in these scenarios, it sounds like he would probably do like, you get like a piece of paper, put a line down the middle, and each column, like the left column would say why I think this is going to work. Then the right column is why I don't think this thing is going to work.
He kind of touched on that. He didn't give the exercise of drawing the line down the paper and saying what, like why and why not. But when we asked him about like the singularity of focus, he started talking about like, putting out ideas and then why wouldn't this work? Or was that during the singularity of focus portion?
That was
one of the other big like takeaways that I had was
any.
When you're thinking about pursuing a project, like, look at reasons why it wouldn't work and try to break it apart, right?
Yeah, and that's like if you can kind of brain dump that from day one or second one, and you're living in the why and the what, probably more of the what. Like, okay, so what are the different things that could happen or go wrong or go right, and you might as well just like brain dump all that stuff. It sounds like that's his first step. Once he's figured out probably singularity or focus, some of this other stuff all fits into place.
Yeah.
Either way.
Amazing conversation. We'll probably
nuggets.
do a round 2 because he lives about 50 minutes from us, an hour from us. And, we got on the recording, and before we hit record, he's like, why didn't we just do this one in person? We're like, we didn't realize we were this close.
Dang it. Next time.
He already offered to do a round 2 with us, and that next time it'll be in person. So, we were actually reflecting after the call that he actually reminds us a little bit of Naval Ravikant, just in like his philosophies and the way he thinks and the way he puts out little sound bites for free. Naval is in a place in his life where he's not doing anything for the money anymore, right? He's got plenty of money, so he's not doing it for the money anymore. So now he's just kind of sharing his wisdom. He's sharing what he's learned along the way. And I truly believe that's kind of like why he does what he does, why he's putting out content, is he's got this wisdom and he just wants to share it. I get that same feeling with Sharran here.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's where, his 4weekmba.com, definitely go pick that up and go join the 5amclub.net, I believe it is.
Yep.
I don't know if there was a the before that. I think it's just 5amclub.net. But like both of these things, like that is a time thing. He's doing that every single day, and he's basically giving little nuggets of wisdom, in like 5 minutes or less or so every single day. And then this 4weekmba.com, you gotta think he's like packaging up so much wisdom in a course of a handful of weeks, he said.
4 weeks. It's
4 weeks.
4 week MBA.
Yeah. Not even a little bit more.
4 week MBA. It only takes you 12 weeks to complete.
Hey, you never know. Bonuses. But like, think about, like, you're not going to get that from someone who's done all this stuff. And, the fact he's putting it out there is because he wants to help a lot of people. So 4weekmba.com, I think, would be very nice to go to.
Yeah.
And meet me at 5 a.m. Pacific time, though.
Yeah,
so if you're in East Coast, it's not that hard of a change.
You don't talk, right? You just hear?
Yeah, you just listen.
Okay. So
I was literally in bed when I called in with like one earbud in.
So everybody comes in on mute then, and everybody just kind of stays on mute? Or can you unmute yourself?
I think it's unmuted, but then he mutes it after. Like he said, he like kind of lets a little humanity come in to the call. So you do hear like clinking around, like people doing like, stuff like that. And then he's wishing or saying good morning every ding, that pops on
6,000 times.
I didn't hear it. I mean, maybe they overlapped a lot. There were a lot of dings. I know that.
Yeah.
He said good morning a lot, which I was like, that's cool. So he wished me good morning this morning.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So if it is open, everybody should get on and be like, I hope Joe Fier's here.
Yeah, I guess you have the opportunity to shout out right when you jump on there. Yeah. Well, check it out. I'll see you on there, huh?
Maybe. Probably not tomorrow because I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I know, me too. All right. Well, let's wrap this puppy up. Let's talk about our new channel, like the place, our hangout, our island.
Hangout. Yeah, Hustle and Flowchart Island.
We created an island in the metaverse.
No,
I don't think it's really the metaverse.
No, it's not. It's
digital
Discord.
world.
It's centralized.
Damn it. Web 2. Yeah. All right. So we created a Discord channel. We're calling it Hustle and Flowchart Island. And this is basically replacing the Facebook group, more or less. It's basically our new community. We're going to put all sorts of fun stuff in there, different channels for different topics. We're going to bring a bunch of our friends in there, probably a bunch of the people that have been on the podcast.
Well, it's just so much easier to like communicate in real time with people in there. It's so much easier to sort of break up sections of content. So in our Facebook group, you can kind of scroll forever and maybe find something interesting to you, but who's going to ever do that? In the Discord, you could go in with a purpose. You can go into the Discord and be like, okay, I want to learn about what they're talking about with this NFT stuff right now. Well, there's a section in there where we're talking about NFTs, or, I want to learn about like what they're doing to grow their podcast right now. Well, there's a section in there about podcasting, right? So there's these segmented sections where you can go in and join the communication and the conversation on just those topics that interest you, right? So I really love the Discord, and you could do cool things like voice broadcasts. Whoever's hanging out in the Discord, Joe or myself, could turn on a voice broadcast and talk to everybody, listen.
Or play some music. We heard Discord today. They had
they were
like
doing
almost
a party.
It was like a party. There was a disc jockey and everything. Like spouting. I was like, all right, so you're listening to the. I was like, what is this? This is cool.
Yeah.
So we might have a party over there. All that to say, go join us on Discord. And if it's new, if you never have used Discord before, just try it out. We'll be your guinea pigs. Yeah, the island will be the place that you test the Discord waters.
Hustle and Flowchart Island.
hustleandflowchart.com/Discord is how you get there.
Yeah, you know what? I thought this was clever. I'm calling our moderators lifeguards.
Lifeguards. All right, I dig.
Yeah.
You're my lifeguard.
Yeah, they're lifeguard because it's island theme.
Yeah, I dig it. We'll come up with like cool artwork or something for their bat. I don't know. You can do funky stuff with Discord.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot of stuff.
Discord. We're going to do a lot of fun stuff with Discord. There's going to be some. I'm not even going to get
craziness.
Into it,
Craziness will
You're going to want to be hanging
us.
out in the Discord because that's where you're going to hear about it, either there or on the podcast is where we're broadcasting stuff. But yeah, hustleandflowchart.com/Discord. You're going to want to be in there. We're doing some ninja tactical.
We're doing
craziness.
some ninja what?
I don't know. We're going to be doing some cool stuff in there.
Do you ever say ninja outside of the podcast?
I don't think I say ninja very often
don't think
anymore
you do.
because somebody called me out
Yes.
on it, and now now I'm conscious of that word.
Someone call him out in the YouTubes. I'll make sure
We're
that
going to
it's
get
in there.
samurai with this stuff.
Samurai, ooh, that's taking it back. Yeah. That's another day. All right, so Easy Webinar, I want to shout out our friends over there. They're hooking you up with a fatty discount for anything webinar-based. They're your folks. They have created basically a centralized program that is everything webinars. So if you want to host your webinars on there, your pages that are all associated with it, registration pages, it helps you with the tech, it reports your data, all the metrics of this stuff. They do it all. So easywebinar.com/hustle will give you that nice discount.
Go get it.
Go get it.
Yeah.
Aight. And go share this around. Leave us a little comment, something below. If you're watching us on YouTube or if you're listening to us, tell us a little takeaway.
Or come into the Discord and say, hey, I love that episode. And we'll be like, what did you love about that episode? And you'll be like, I love it when Sharran said this. And we'll be like, that's amazing. And then we'll actually have a real conversation.
Ooh, we could have conversations now.
Yes.
About time. I have been missing that, man. Because the Facebook group, it wasn't doing it.
No.
It'd be like a post and ghost sometimes from us.
Yeah.
Because like Facebook, come on. But there was no real conversation. So Discord's where it's at. hustleandflowchart.com/Discord.
Yeah.
You'll enjoy it. All right. We're done.
That's it.
That's a day.